President.
The Majority Leader.
The Senate mourns the tragedy that we now know took place Thursday off the coast of Southern California. According to official reports, 9 American service members, 8 Marines, and 1 sailor died during a training exercise. These young service members were all between the ages of 19 and 23. It is absolutely heartbreaking. The units involved are among our most unique and specialized amphibious forces. Their training is what allows them to deploy at a moment's notice under the harshest conditions in the most remote and unsupported locations. As the search for survivors turned into a recovery mission, the nation was reminded that even what our men and women in uniform may consider routine still involves serious risk and personal sacrifice. I extend the Senate's sympathies to the families of those lost and our gratitude to the Marine Corps, Navy, and Coast Guard personnel who are searching to bring their comrades home. Now, Mr. President, on an entirely different matter, this week officials from the intelligence community, the FBI, and the Department of Homeland Security will brief us on foreign efforts to influence our politics and elections and how the administration is defending us. Every one of our colleagues should attend one of these sessions. Sharing sensitive threat information with Congress is just one of the ways this administration has outperformed its predecessor. The intelligence community has kept Congress much more closely informed about those threats in 2018 and 2020 than it did in the run-up to 2016. I'm sure these briefings will contain details that might seem ripe for cherry-picking and partisan leaks from both sides, but it is essential that Congress remain a place where the word classified actually means something. Leaking intelligence jeopardizes sources and methods, and if we've learned anything from studying Russian interference in 2016, it's that our adversaries' ultimate objective is to leave America more divided and less confident in our institutions. Members of Congress must take special care not to do Putin's work for him. Foreign adversaries had long sought to interfere in our politics and elections. That didn't start in 2016, and it won't end in 2020. But this administration has put us in a far, far better position than in 2016. There's simply no comparison. The intelligence community is better aware of the threat. Government agencies are more transparent with Congress, the state and local jurisdictions that actually run elections, the private sector, and the public. In 2016, the Obama-Biden administration had to lean on congressional leadership to act as a bridge to the states because the states so distrusted their Department of Homeland Security. Over the last 4 years, this administration's DHS has developed its own deep relationship with state officials. In 2016, only 14 state or local jurisdictions had received high-tech alert sensors to alert them to cyber intrusions. Today, they're deployed in all 50 states. 14 states had them in 16. Today, every state has them. It was this administration that stood up the new Elections Infrastructure Information Sharing and Analysis Center with participation from more than 2,600 local jurisdictions and counting. This administration has imposed real, hard costs on election interference and Russia's other misdeeds, shuttering the Kremlin's consulates in San Francisco and Seattle, kicking out intelligence offices, sanctioning oligarchs, helping European partners defend their own elections against Russia, and sending weapons to Ukraine and Georgia, which the Obama-Biden administration did not supply. This administration has also confronted China for what the State Department described as massive espionage and influence operations, including closing Beijing's consulate in Houston. As the Democratic vice chairman on the Senate Intelligence Committee has stated in 2016, quote, "We were caught flat-footed." Not anymore. Congress has provided more than $800 million for states and localities to shore up election security and have passed a number of targeted new laws. And since foreign political interference is so often aimed at private sector platforms like social media sites, we've encouraged these businesses to step up vigilance as well. Through all of this, Mr. President, we've also carefully avoided things that look like quick fixes, but which would undermine our own institutions. In the United States of America, it is states and localities, not the federal government, who run elections, period. And our lack of a one-size-fits-all national system isn't just constitutionally appropriate, it also acts as a further safeguard. We lack a single point of failure. So in closing, Mr. President, I urge all our colleagues to attend these important briefings with an eye toward our real adversaries, not our fellow Americans, but the foreign agents who love to see us at one another's throats. Back during the impeachment trial, a leading House Democrat asserted that if President Trump wins re-election, the people's vote would be presumptively invalid. Just a few days ago, it was reported a leading Democratic strategist who was wargaming this election decided to experiment with what would happen if Vice President Biden lost the election, but simply failed to concede. Once again, this kind of recklessness achieves our adversaries' missions for them. So I would urge my colleagues to listen to civil servants who are defending our democracy. Let's stay united, focus on the real dangers posed by foreign intelligence, and resist the urge to politicize these vital subjects.
Under the previous order, the leadership time is reserved. Under the previous order, the Senate will proceed to executive session to resume.
Not quite finished yet.
The Majority Leader.
Now, on one final matter. Last week, the Senate Democratic leader brought an end to the additional federal benefit for unemployed workers. Republicans tried multiple times to extend the money, including at the same dollar level that our colleague himself said he wanted. The Democratic leader blocked it all. This is the dynamic on the Democratic side that killed the subject of police reform back in June, and it has now jeopardized more coronavirus relief as well. Democratic leaders insist publicly they want an outcome, but they work alone behind closed doors to ensure a bipartisan agreement is actually not reached. We're about a week into the Speaker's and the Democratic leaders' discussions with the administration, a week into the Democratic leadership cutting out all their members, all of them, cutting out all their committees, and saying that only they can participate. So how's it going? Well, the Democratic leader is still refusing to let struggling Americans get another dime unless he gets a massive tax cut for wealthy people in blue states that has nothing to do with the coronavirus. I'm not kidding. This is his position. Nothing for schools, nothing for kids, nothing for the PPP, nothing for the health care fight. Nobody gets a dime unless the Democratic leader gets a massive tax cut for rich people in New York and California. That's what he's saying. The Speaker of the House and the Democratic leader are continuing to say our way or the highway, with a massive wish list for left-wing lobbyists that slopped together a few weeks ago called a coronavirus bill. Stimulus checks for illegal immigrants, diversity studies for the legal pot industry, and on and on. When they put out this proposal, even the media and their fellow Democrats pronounced this thing dead on arrival. Here was one reporter, quote, "Neither this bill nor anything resembling it will ever become law. It's a Democratic wish list filled up with all the party's favored policies." And remember how Speaker Pelosi's own members felt about this absurd proposal. Quote, Privately, several House members concede their latest bill feels like little more than an effort to appease the most liberal members of the caucus. Even Democrats knew Speaker Pelosi's bill was unserious. But now, with the additional unemployment benefit disappearing, with families still struggling, they're going back to this unserious position and refusing to budge. I can't imagine this is how Democratic colleagues really all want this to play out. In March, we built the CARES Act by Republicans and Democrats working together at the committee level. This time, again, Republicans introduced a serious proposal that was written by our own chairman and our own members. But this time, the Democratic leader has cut Senate Democrats out entirely. He's forbidden their committees from even talking to Republicans. He's digging in on a House messaging bill written with no input from his own members that even House Democrats themselves called absurd. These are not the tactics that would build a bipartisan result. These are not the tactics that will get more cash in Americans' pockets, more help to the unemployed, more assistance for schools to reopen. It's time for the Democratic leadership to get serious about making a law for the American people.
Under the previous order, the leadership time is reserved. Under the previous order, the Senate